Oh, look at there. Look at that cute face there.
Bye-bye.
Adrian, Smoot is on. Good morning, Rockstar. Rockstar's in the
Tom.
house. Tom Nardone, Tuca. I think Tuca's from Pensacola, that area. One of my investors up here moved actually to my other market. Andy's, I see Andy popping on. I'm going to share my screen
The
here.
camera is not on, right?
I'm hearing somebody, but I'm not sure who I'm hearing. All right, here. I'm going to share my screen.
Hey,
here.
guys.
What's going up, Tom?
Oh, hey, I wasn't sure if you could hear me or not. Good, Tom. Hey, Tom Barry.
We got lots of Toms on today.
Yeah, exactly.
All the Toms.
Yes, there's some more Toms in our network as well. Man, that's a pretty trailer in Adrian's picture there too. Look at that. That looks like money, right, Adrian? Oh, look, he's running up.
Yeah, it is money. I call this on my bank account. I'm getting my coffee. I'll be right back.
There you go. Jennifer, welcome. Good morning, Jennifer.
Good morning, guys.
She's in the dark this morning.
I am in the dark,
Hasn't turned her
figuratively
lights
and
on.
literally.
She hasn't turned the lights on yet. So Andy, welcome. Gunter. I was actually at a restaurant in Texas. Where do we go? San Antonio, called Gunter's. I thought about you, Gunter.
Yeah, it's mine. You didn't know that?
That's yours? I didn't realize you own that restaurant.
I hope you dropped some tips there for me.
Do you own the Pioneer flour as well? Like
No.
like the owners?
Quick question, when are you coming down to Pensacola next time?
I probably need to get down there in the next 6 weeks because I got a project starting soon. So
So after the Thanksgiving.
yes, for sure after Thanksgiving. I know I'm closing in the next week or two. I got a great deal. I got a smoking good deal on ARVs, if you look at the MLS, would probably tell you like 380, 390, and I'm counting it like a $300,000 deal. Picked it up for about 100. It needs about 80. So those are good numbers, right, Tom Barry? That's a project that Tom Barry would loan on.
I think that'll work.
When even your bad, like the worst case scenarios are still only, I don't know, 60% of ARV. Those are pretty good numbers. Samantha, Ricky's on, Mark is on, Jerry, Ricky's on. Welcome to you guys. Thank you guys for joining us on a Saturday. I'm gonna just so you guys know, I know a lot of people have been on this is the 12th one that we've done. We've done 12 calls in a row. Started this in January. We do it every single month. But just so you guys know, I'm gonna kind of start trying some different days of the week. I've had a lot of different people in my network, especially speakers, believe it or not, that I've asked to be on the calls, ask me if I could do a weekday instead of a weekend. So, and actually, we've done it once. We did it once with Jim Ingersoll was on and Wendy Sweet was on. And I think a couple other great people on my network were on. Eddie Wilson and Glenn Stromberg were on that one big call. We had, 100 so people that showed up to that call. That was on a Friday. So the next call we're going to do is going to be on a Monday. So I just want to kind of let everybody know that. And let everybody kind of, we are going to, if you guys have any ideas or anything that you guys would like to hear about, we're really been talking a lot about the, what's going on in real estate. I think this is probably one of the times in the real estate cycle that you want to be the most engaged and the most kind of like paying attention and talking with other people and talking with your network and just trying to make sure that you're on top of everything. I try to get, the best of the best type people to be on these calls and people that I trust, or people I just want to, hear from. One of those people is Tom Barry, who's going to be on today. So welcome, Tom. Thank you for spending some time with us this morning, sir.
Not a problem. My pleasure.
I tell Tom every time I see him, he inspires me, and not a lot of people inspire me, but Tom inspires me. Some people are friends, like I got a, great friend in Jim Ingersoll. Some people I connect intellectually, like Jennifer. I feel like, connect intellectually. So there's like a different type of connection you have with different people. Tom Barry, I think, is just a really cool dude. And if you've never been on a, what do you call that boat that you've got on the Everglades, Tom? Tom Nardone, I'm sorry, I said Tom Barry.
It's an airboat, so I'm
Airboat,
the
yes.
swamp guy that you relate to the most, right?
Yes, so that was just insane. If you've never been on an airboat and you've been like literally going over alligators, jumping up and down over the alligators, you've got to get on one of those things. It was really cool. But he's just a cool guy, been in the business for a long time, has a ton of friends, knows a lot, has made mistakes just like all of us has. But also like has had a lot of successes, love to connect with different people. But Tom's somebody who inspires me. He's on today, and I'm really excited about this call today. We were going to have him on a little while ago, and he had a bunch of stuff going on with his ranch and Tom is just always into something. He's got a gun store, he's got a ranch, he's got a meat shop now, he's buying commercial properties, he's got a huge lending fund, and he's just somebody I look up to, but also is just a really cool guy as well. He was singing karaoke at the Free For All, guys. So he was just a really cool guy. I always like to tell people a little bit about my week, and kind of like what's going on in the Olson world. So last night, this is where we were at last night at the St. James Cathedral in downtown Chicago. So that was really cool. It really was. Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to play that again. So we did not mean to play that again. But after a week like this week, where we learn the definition of success, what success looks like, people in Pennsylvania, this is what it looks like, everybody. So if you're like me and you kind of we're feeling like this week really wasn't a super great win for us, a great way to cap off the week for us was to go hear Handel's Messiah, and to understand. And I want to remind everybody that God is in control, and that's where I put my faith. And he's the one that organizes rulers. And for me, that's where I'm going to decide to put my faith. And I'll be honest with you, I wasn't a happy camper day after election. I still don't understand why it takes so long to count 60,000 votes in one state when we can count 6 million votes in another state in like 6 hours. But we'll just leave it at that. But seriously, Pennsylvania, I'm not sure if Kevin Femley's on here, but I sent this picture to him as well from those people in Pennsylvania. So I had this slide up here, some good friends of mine. I don't have anything to do with this. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be speaking. I'm going to be part of the event. But I'll tell you, 10 years ago, I got hooked up with a group of people. It used to be called the IRA Fund Cruise at that time, and got to meet Quincy Long and kind of really got to learn a lot about IRAs at the time. But we're doing a really cool cruise. Tom Barry, I keep saying Tom Barry, Tom Nardone, and Peggy and Tanya are putting this on. And I got a slide to just kind of direct people. If you're interested in going on this cruise, well, I'll back up because the dates are February 4th through 11th. So it's coming up super fast. I don't think that there's very many rooms that are even available, but I know there still is some room available on this cruise. And who doesn't like to have fun? Who doesn't like to create your network? So for me, I'll tell you, this is something that it helped my relationships foster much quicker, because you're in a room with people for all week. You get to go do fun things with people all week. You get to eat with people all week. And I'll tell you, lots of deals get done on these cruises. So if you want to spend some time and spend some money and really have a ton of fun doing it, building your network, I would highly recommend something like this. So the best way to make that happen, and honestly, the prices are stupid cheap. I mean, it was like $8.99 or something. So it's I've heard it said it's cheaper to live on a cruise ship than it is to live in a I don't know what you call it now, residential assisted living or like an assisted living place. But just contact Janice at GoTravel, Janice B at GoTravel.com. You just email her. She'll get you the information. And I'm telling you, there's a couple of weeks from now, you guys aren't going to have this opportunity anymore.
Yeah. Not to mention, Tom, the price they're paying to go on that ship. If they Google the Symphony of the Seas, it's an amazing ship. But more so than that, it's the people we're going to have on board are more amazing than the ship itself.
Yes, very true. Adrian said, for once, the people in Florida aren't the laughter of America. Yes, there's no hanging chads this time in Florida. So thank you to Florida for showing the rest of the world how elections should be handled. Again, if you guys want to go on this cruise, this is where you go. Next event, guys, the free for all is going to be September 7th through 9th. There's the way to sign up, goodsuccess.com /free for all. And then I do want to remind everybody that we do have the videos from the last event are available to be able to be purchased. And you can go right there to that place. And there is a coupon code. So I want to give this to anybody who listens to this. There's a coupon call. It's just save 30, no space. So save SAVE 30, and you'll save 30% off the price for those as well. The next call is Adrian Smoot. I think he's on there. Do you want to just pop in for a couple seconds, Adrian? Just let everybody know what you're going to talk about next week or next month, I should say.
I'm going to talk about these beautiful trailers behind me and how they make money.
Yes. Money. They look and smell like money, right, Adrian?
Yes, sir. Mobile
Adrian,
homes with the land.
Yes, mobile homes with land, just like my friend Glenn Stromberg. But so Adrian's going to be on next month, and he's full of energy. He really is. He'll be a delight. He loves to wear this green lifestyle shirt of his. He wants everybody to know that he's in the room when he comes in. And I think he's a cool guy. Met him at Jim Ingersoll's event, and I'm excited to have him on. Now we're going to play with the date again, guys. So Monday, it's going to be a Monday, December 12th. And I didn't want to do it too late in that week because I know it starts getting into Christmas holidays and people are doing Christmas holiday things. So to be Monday, the 12th at 10 a.m., put that on your calendar. I know there's 300 or so people that are on the list that actually get a Google Calendar invite, and it gets put right on their calendar. And then these calls also get recorded, and they get put on our website, and they get sent out video. I mean, they get sent out in our emails as well throughout the month. So thank you, Adrian, for being willing to be on next month and teach us how we can make money as well with trailers on land or mobile homes on land. Lots of people that I know in my network have done that. So without further ado, welcome, Tom, to the show. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, Tom.
Yeah, appreciate you being on, and just kind of wanted to start out with what is going on with the Tom Barry household there in Texas.
We are at the ranch right now, getting ready to lay some plumbing this weekend. So I get to play on all my Tonka toys. So, the difference between boys and men, right? Just the expense of their toys. Yeah. So that's where I'm at. We're going to have a fun weekend. Melissa and I, the weather is gorgeous here. And just taking it easy this weekend. Been working like a dog recently.
Listen to this guy. He says he's going to be taking it easy, but he's going to be working all day. Like this is
that is taking it easy for me.
The type of people I like to hang out with. I cannot stand hanging out with people that try to say that they don't need to work and that work is not important. Like, I love hanging out with people that like think that work is fun. And Tom is one of those people. So you're going to be laying some plumbing this weekend. You're going to be
Yeah.
digging trenches and trying to get plumbing going on there.
Yeah.
That is
Yep.
awesome.
Yeah. That's how I relax. Yeah.
I want to see some pictures. We want to see some pictures of Tom on the mini excavator out there this week. So Tom, just tell us a little bit about your businesses and kind of just for people that don't know. I know there's a lot of people that do know you on here, but just tell us a little bit about what you do and what do you do for a living? And maybe I know you've got several different businesses, so just let us know a little bit about you.
Yeah. So I guess I tell people I'm semi-retired. I'm a serial entrepreneur, and in my semi-retirement, I don't do a lot anymore. I only look for commercial real estate or businesses that we can buy. I guess my claim to fame is I'm pretty good at recruiting, attracting, and keeping really good employees. And we have a phenomenal management team in place. I think as of last week, we were at maybe 54, 56 employees across all companies. And these are W-2'd, actual full-time W-2'd employees. See, I'm not counting contractors or things like that in that. So we just look for businesses and commercial real estate assets that we can continue to build, to build our little tiny empire in our little tiny part of the world, right? That's what we're all trying to do. And I've just been at it for maybe a little longer than some.
So Tom, why don't you tell us a little bit about, you didn't even mention your lending business. So I know you do some travel for the lending business and you do promote that a little bit.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about what that is and what you're doing there.
Yeah, so our lending company is actually our largest company at this time. Anybody that has multiple income streams will understand that in any particular year that can change, right? We've had years where this one was the highest and this one is third and fourth, and then they switch places throughout the years. But our lending company has, over the past, I'm going to say 4 years, has really just catapulted past everything else that we've done. And so we lend, I think, in 26 states now. And we'll do single family, we'll do commercial, we'll do development. I always say we'll do anything that makes sense. We don't really have a stringent box because we don't sell our paper like most of our competitors do. And we don't use warehouse lines like most of our competitors do, or bank lines like the rest of our competitors do. So that's, I guess, the thing that sets us apart is we don't have any strings on what we can use our capital for. And literally, if somebody brings me a deal that makes sense to me, we're going to fund it. We're going to get involved in it. And I like that aspect of it. I never really wanted to go the direction of the rest of the industry because there's too many constraints to it. And well, let's be honest, I don't like constraints of any form. So I'm not going to have them on a business.
Yeah. So with that lending business, you probably pay quite a bit of attention to what's going on in real estate and what's going on in the market. And you kind of, I'm assuming you lead that business from at least a visionary standpoint. You may not lead the day-to-day, but kind of maybe trying to come in and let people know. I mean, like I do with my lending business, trying to like, hey, this is what we need to be thinking about right now. And this is where the market's going. And, maybe we need to change our underwriting guidelines right now. So that's kind of what these calls are all about, is what is going on in real estate. So what do you see right now, Tom?
Yeah.
Like, obviously your hands are in a couple different pots here with commercial and lending. I know I'm not sure if you're still involved in this, but you used to own a bunch of C-class multifamilies as well. You've been in that as well. But what do you see going on right now? There's definitely, some cracks. There's some inventory that's getting put on the market that's not selling quite like it was 6 months ago, 8 months ago. What's going on?
Yeah. So, we talked earlier before the call started about things that we look at, data that we look at to give us these ideas or glimpses into the future. But honestly, the best data that you can have is talking to your network. And like you, I have a really, really strong network across the country, and just staying plugged in with them and saying, not what do you, I want to know what they're feeling, what they're seeing, what moves they're making. So I had lunch with a gentleman 3 days ago that is a lender and also a flipper, and very highly respected, got a huge following, has a RIA group himself. And I really respect this guy and have been coaching him where I can. I just really like him and his wife. They're awesome people. They're just great. But in sitting there talking to him at lunch, I could sense fear in a guy. I've never seen fear before. This is an individual that he shared with me. He had 8 flips that he had put on the market in an extremely hot market too. This particular area where he flips is an area you would not expect to see any real change in anytime soon. But the change is there. It's not cracks. It's huge, whatever you want to call it. It isn't cracks. It's there. It's happening. So he pulled all of those off the market. He sent in a landscaper to really detail the landscaping and the curb appeal of every one. Sent in a finish team to make sure there were absolutely no details on the inside of the house that had been overlooked in the flip. Then he sent in a stage and staged every single one of them and was putting them back on the market this week. And he shared with me that if he can get break even out of the houses, he will be thrilled. He isn't even after profit at this point. He just wants them off of his books and he wants his money back. He's probably got 30 to 40 million out on the street in his lending company, his hard money company. He has pretty much stopped lending and doesn't want to lend anymore, even though he could. He has lines available to him. But he's like, I just want to get some of that back. I want to see these things paying off, and I'm not really interested in putting any on the street. I also talked to another gentleman. He's got about 300 million on the street. Again, in a very hot area, very hot market. He has completely ceased lending as well at this point. He's not doing any hard money loans until he sees some of that capital coming back in. So that's what I'm seeing out there. It honestly, a lot of fear. I don't know that it's completely warranted, but I don't know that it isn't completely warranted either. If you talk to wholesalers, what you're finding is they are not able to sell their contracts. Now, the problem, I think, with wholesalers is most of them haven't been full cycle and they don't understand where we are right now. You know, if you think about 2004, when I started in real estate part-time, and then I started full-time in 2007, you know, back then in 04 to, let's say, 70% minus repairs was a typical number that you could sell pretty much any contract that you got at that time. But then you got into 2008 and 9, that number plummeted for us, at least in Texas. And at that point, I could still sell contracts because I was wholesaling at the time, but I had to be able to offer that contract to an investor at 60 to 65% minus repair, depending on the quality of the product. Right. If it was a dumpier house in a dumpier area, I needed to go deeper in order to flip that contract. So for me, as the wholesaler, I needed to get that thing in the 40s or low 50s as a percentage minus repairs, right? In order to be able to make a few bucks on that contract and be able to give the actual investor a contract that he or she could work with. Most of our wholesalers today in the marketplace were not wholesalers 13 years ago, so they don't know that, and it's going to be an extremely painful lesson for them, I think, one that they are in the process of learning as we speak.
I'm so glad you brought that up too, because this is the time where like you almost have to look in the future and say the ARV isn't what it is today. What's the ARV going to be in 6 months from now? Like that's how I'm underwriting all of my loans. That's how I'm underwriting all of my deals that I'm buying. We're still buying, and we're buying heavy now because we're getting those deep discounts. But I'm telling my team, like, you know, ARV, 65% of ARV minus repairs isn't my buy box anymore. Like I want to buy at least, you know, 5-10% lower than that even for my own deals. And I'm buying deals where if I get them and I can rent them, I'm happy. You know, I don't even care. Like, cause I know I'm into these, you know, really, really well. And my investors will be into them really well as well. The other thing is to understand on who's investors and who is a trader in this market. So just so everybody knows, wholesalers, flippers, they're traders, just like the stock market. You're a trader. You are not an investor. You might invest in some marketing, and people love to kind of use that as I'm an investor. No, you're really a trader. You have a trader business. And an investor is somebody that's going to hold that asset for at least a year. You have to be able to at least hold that asset for a year to really be investing. Now, yes, there's a way to invest in a business as a wholesaler and try to build a business. That's a whole different type of investment that I agree with. But you know, so right now I think people are looking at. I had a wholesaler. Literally, we agreed on a deal, okay, and then the next day I'm like, "Where's my contract? You said you were going to be emailing me the contract. We agreed on everything." And he's like, "I got another guy that was going to give me $5,000 more," and I'm like, this is the time where that doesn't. First of all, that should never happen. You should never agree on a price with somebody and say, I'm going to send you a contract, and then later on say, I found somebody to. No, you should have never agreed in the first place, number one. But now your integrity is so bad that nobody, that person's never going to buy from you again. And number one, he's a real buyer, not a fake buyer. And nobody in his network is ever going to buy from you. You are done. You are toast. There's so many times when we wholesaled almost 1,500 homes in the last crash. And there was so many times where we had somebody offer us $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 more for that exact same house. And we still kept our word with the first person that we agreed on. Even verbally. And I know in real estate, there's this saying that if it doesn't happen on paper, it doesn't happen. Oh no, buddy. It really happens. You have a moral obligation, and you have a real obligation in your network and in your name long haul to make that happen. But I love what you said about the wholesalers learning the new market. And I think wholesalers need to be looking at it like, what's the ARV 6 months from now, not what it was 6 months ago. And that's a great thought there. Also the feelings, I love what you said there too. And I saw you do a presentation in this last year about feelings versus facts, right? You know, the facts don't really tell us that we should have the fear that we have, but that doesn't mean it's not real.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm a big fact guy, right? I don't operate on feelings. I just operate on facts. And I guess I try to do that in every aspect of my life. But I wanted to go back to a comment you made, Tom, because, you know, I kind of glossed over. You did a good job of bringing it out. And I just want to solidify 100%. I agree with you in this business, and maybe in any business, but certainly in this one, because this is such a relational situation we're in. We have to have other people that we can rely on to be successful in real estate. We just do. I didn't realize that initially, you know, in my first year or so, but I quickly learned that your network and the people that know you and so forth, and your reputation are just, they're more valuable than anything else. So, you know, one of the things that I always say when I'm speaking publicly is my reputation is more valuable than any other asset that I own. It is more valuable to me than any building I own or any business that I own, because that reputation is what makes me the money. that reputation is what people are coming to when they're buying a product from me or a service from me or bringing me a building or some kind of property that they want to unload. That reputation is paramount. So there are many times where I have taken less simply because I didn't want to ding on that reputation. And I think that was money well spent. To me, you can just put that little loss, whatever it was, in the marketing category, right, of your P&L and say, hey, that was a great marketing expense right there. Yes, I could have reneged on this deal, written or otherwise, and I could have made an extra 10 grand, but that 10 grand, I'm going to put that as a marketing expense in my mind, of course, and call that money well spent.
Absolutely. I love the book, The Speed of Trust. And that's really what this is all about, is like, if you trust somebody, it's easy to do business. You know, like I trust Tom Berry. I'm willing to put money in his fund. I believe I'm going to get paid back. Like, you know, that's what this is all about. And you learn this in this part of the market way more so than you learn this in other parts of the market. So
Agreed.
I'm glad that got, I wasn't expecting that to come out. I'm actually I'm speaking at RIA next week in my local market here in Northwest Indiana. And that's kind of like, you know, they've asked me to speak on like, what are you doing right now in this part of the market? And I'm like, well, I'm doing the same thing I was doing before this market was. Number one, I'm doing what I say I'm going to do. Number two, like it all goes back to those basics of, you know, paying people back, doing what you say you're going to do. So I'm glad that Tom brought that out. I wasn't expecting that, but I appreciate that. So we talked about what's going on in real estate. You talked about the fear already a little bit. And, you know, we're seeing that as well. We're seeing also, you know, days on market. We're seeing like actual data that you can track, like how many property, like something I like to track is how many houses are getting put on the market every day and how many houses are actually going pending every day. That'll kind of be a precursor of what's going to happen and how many houses are going to be on the market, you know, in a couple months from now. And we're seeing about 2 times as many houses getting put on the market each day that are getting sold each day. So, you know, we kind of know that means inventory is going to be up down the road. So, you know, look, what are you seeing in different markets though? So that I think a lot of that's in the real estate, maybe single family. You know, I know that there's different parts of that market different parts of real estate. You've got self-storage, right? You've got commercial, you've got multifamily. When you were at my event, you said that right now is not the time to be buying multifamily. So like maybe give us a little bit of insight on what Tom Berry believes about all the other parts of real estate as well. And, you know, or just whatever you can kind of come up with there.
Yeah, sure. So like you had alluded to earlier, we did do a lot of C-class and a couple of B-class apartment complexes back in the last cycle. When I say last cycle, what I'm talking about is the trough of the last cycle, which is where I really get excited to buy. I don't really buy a lot when we're in the up stages of the market. So for that reason, we probably in the last 4 years, even though everybody, you know, thinks I'm this big real estate buying guy, I really think in the last 4 years, we've probably bought maybe 5 properties. All of them were commercial, so they were larger properties and larger numbers, larger deals. But I'm just not really excited about buying when the market is what I feel either over bloated or at the peak. And so I believe we are beyond that now, and we are headed down the other side. And from experience and a lot of study of market cycles, I think that there are a couple of particular asset classes where somebody, if they were a long-term player, not a short-term trader, as you put it, could really pick up some assets at a steal. And over the long haul, if they had the wherewithal financially to withstand this cycle, could really come out with millions and millions in equity. So that's what we have been positioning ourselves to do. And that's what we're going to attempt to do again, like we did in the last cycle with multifamily. Now, I don't believe that this time around is going to be as good for multifamily. Again, facts over feelings, right? I don't go into this thing saying, hey, I know multifamily, I've done it before, I've been successful in it, I want to do multifamily. The market doesn't give a crap what you want. The market doesn't give a crap what you feel. The market gives you what it gives you. And today, it's not giving me good prices on multifamily. So what is it giving me? If you were into hotel motel, I think you could clean house because I'm seeing hotel motel trading in the 11 to 13, sometimes even 15% cap rate range.
Wow.
I am not going to go into hotel motel because at this point in my life, I don't need a management intensive job. I have a good life. I don't want to give it up for money. So
That's a
what I
hospitality
will-
business.
I'm sorry, what's that again?
That's a hospitality business. Same reason why I got
Yeah.
out of doing Airbnbs. I just didn't want to have the hospitality business anymore.
Yeah, exactly. But for somebody that is into that, or maybe is younger in their career in real estate, I think there is a huge opportunity there. And if it was earlier in my career, I would definitely be taking advantage of it. Another area that I think, now this one you're going to need a lot of capital to hold you through, but office space. Office space right now is it's cheap. It's really cheap. And the two plays there that I see is holding it until that sector tightens back up again, or repurposing that office space. There are buildings selling cheap enough that you could go in there and repurpose them away from just traditional office space. And that's another play that I see some guys, again, with large capital behind them, making really good money in. The one that we're actually chasing right now, and when I say chasing, we're ramping up to chase. By ramping up, I mean, I have hired Jennifer Stewart as my acquisitions manager, and she is heading up a group that we're putting together that will be bringing us leads. Locally, we also have somebody in Houston that is reaching out and talking to brokers. We have our buy box already written in a written format that we can shoot it out in an instant to anybody that asks. We are going after shopping centers and retail space. That's what we're going after. The market is not as good for it right now as it is the other two asset classes that I mentioned, but it is getting better every day. We are seeing cracks in that market today, and we're seeing a few deals where a year ago you could look all day long everywhere you wanted to look, and you'd be hard pressed to find a deal there. So I think it's in the infancy, it's in the beginning of a good market for that. But as we ramp everything up, we're opening up a new fund, raising capital. I want to be extremely well capitalized and have the best of resources around me, because understand these troughs in a cycle, whether it was apartments in 2011 and 12 or hotel motel from 2021 to 2023 or whatever that cycle is going to be, or retail, these cycles, the trough area of it usually last anywhere from 18 to 24 months. So it's an extremely small window to get in there and really get them bought at the bottom. And that's what I like to do. It's not trying to time the market, it's being prepared and ready. So we're putting that capital out there now in finding these resources, getting these resources put together. How long does it take us to spin up a fund? It takes us months to work with the SEC attorney and get a fund spun up, and then get out there and start pre-marketing it and letting investors know it's there and what the play is. So we're doing all of those things now so that we'll be prepared when we start seeing those 10 caps that's when we strike. And we'll start knocking those down, and it'll be fun. We're looking forward to it.
That's good. There's a lot of great nuggets there. Thank you for that segment there. So right now you're saying hotels and office space you think are super cheap. And you know what's funny is, like, I think we think that markets just automatically do things and there's never any kind of outside pressure or outside powers that kind of help with those, right? Well, office space and hotels got freaking crushed during COVID. And it's just now it's taking 2 years for like them to realize, hey, like we're done. Like they might have had enough capital to be able to, you know, ride that wave. Or they're looking at their P&Ls from the last 2 years and their investors aren't happy. And they're like, okay, it's time to get rid of these things. And they're just like your other investors that you were talking about at the beginning of this that are saying, if I can get out and not lose money, if I just get my money back, that, you know, that I'm happy. So right now, hotels and office space are cheap. You know, Warren Buffett, you know, one of the greatest investors in, you know, obviously not maybe real estate, although he does have real estate holdings. He says he never really tries to buy the peak and he never really tries to buy the bottom. What he does is he's always trying to buy when it's cheap and sell when it's expensive. So that's what Tom's talking about right now. He's like, he knows hotels and office space are cheap. And then the third thing, the shopping centers, they got hit pretty well too. Malls are, you know, around the country, like really have had a hard time. Maybe not necessarily grocery store shoppers. You know, those places, you know, maybe have not been hit as hard as maybe malls and your traditional indoor mall. I mean, I'm seeing our local mall like almost empty still. And, you know, so that's going to be something that I agree that those are great opportunities. Love for you to send me your buy boxes on those, Tom, as well as we're thinking about that. I've got a guy in the family office space that they are really heavily buying office space right now. And they're doing the exact same thing Tom just said. They're holding or they're repurposing to other types of spaces. So that's tons of wisdom there. Love to hear that from you. So you know what's interesting, Tom, that I've paid attention to quite a bit. You mentioned this 18 to 24 months is that buying time, right? Like the what normally happens though in investors' minds. So normally they wait for everybody else to get in, right? And then they're late to the party. Like, so you've got to be able to have enough gumption and enough, you know, guts to say, hey, I can see the numbers. I know what the numbers are. It's time to get in. And this is another reason why I like, you know, Tom Berry, because he knows what those numbers are. And he's saying, hey, it's time to get in. It doesn't really matter what everybody else's feelings are. There's a reason why these are cheap, right, Tom?
There's the pandemic really crushed, like you said, it crushed hotel motel first. That was the first one. And then office, because a lot of people, and in fact, a lot of people still have this crazy notion that everybody can work from home and still be as productive. That I've seen some people even trying to push the notion that they'll be more productive letting them work from home. Okay, I understand utopia. I understand that it doesn't exist too. That is not the case. Anybody that studies human nature as much as I do can quickly understand and articulate that there are too many distractions for that to work. There is too little collaboration for that to work. So we never, as a company, we never thought that work from home was going to be this massive thing that was going to allow office buildings to be vacant across the nation. Are there some jobs that can be done work from home? Absolutely. Prior to COVID, our IT manager works from another state and always has, and he is phenomenal in his position and he is a valued employee. Our legal director, prior to COVID, we asked her if she would want to work from home and gave her that option and bought her all the tools and resources to set up shop at home because she needs no collaboration. We don't want people collaborating with her. We want her to have her own opinion. We don't want it to be influenced by anybody else. And quite honestly, she needs quiet. She's reading or creating or writing legal docs all day long. that is a person that needs total quiet. And our rowdy bunch in our loan origination department, that would just have been a distraction for her, because we have sales girls there. We have girls that love to pound that phone and work that phone and talk to borrowers and tell them about the different products and stuff. They're loud. They're having fun on their job. That is not what Stephanie needs in her environment. So when people hear me talk about this, they think, oh, Tom thinks nothing can be done from home. That is not the case at all. Not at all. For the right person in the right position, absolutely it can be done. And we have multiple examples of that among our 50-some employees. But if that number is more than 10%, you're fooling yourself, in my humble opinion. I just don't believe that number is going to be more than 10% ever. Regardless of the technological tools that we have available to us. So office is coming back. It has been coming back. The problem is CEOs and HR departments have been doing this for 2 years, ramming their heads together like a couple of rams. HR wants to please the people. So HR is pushing the work from home mantra, and CEOs are trying to get productivity. So they're trying to drag people back to the office. You know, the greatest example of that that's public is Elon Musk and the group at Facebook, and not Facebook, Twitter. And what has he been telling them for the last 2 weeks? Right? Everybody's going to come back to the office and do their 40 hours. You're going to come back to actual work, right? And I think 2 days ago, he even went so far as to say, your resignation is accepted if you don't come back to work, right? That has been the issue. It's not that CEOs found out that work from home was great. They are having a hard time pulling those employees back to work, because human nature is human nature. When people had the opportunity to stay at home, watch their kids, cook lunch, watch Oprah, eat bonbons, and shake the mouse every 20 minutes, they're going to take that opportunity. You pull that away from them, you're going to have a fight. Okay, you're gonna. And we've been seeing that play out across the nation. Just my humble opinion.
Yeah, the other thing I didn't think about as well is, you know, the first year of the pandemic, you had all the PPP money that also helped keep some of these places alive. And then you had the ERC credit as well that a lot of these people have gotten. So once the money stops, the music stops, and a lot of these places, and we're starting to see this as well, even with workers. So like we've had a hard time hiring. We've been trying to hire all year long. And it's interesting now that August 1st was kind of the first, time where all the rent, was stopped and being paid by just sending in a form, and your rent's automatically paid. And so people are actually having to get back to work right now. So things are changing, and a lot is going on. The pandemic, I have always said that the response to the pandemic was always going to be way worse than the actual pandemic itself. And we're seeing that play out right now in the financial markets for sure. There was a little bit of a comment here from Andy, and I was going to hit this as well. I had this on my notes to talk about too, and you're right in the thick of this. Give us just a little bit about, what your thoughts are on rates. I know nobody can really, tell you what the future's going to be, but you can at least tell us what havoc it's having on the markets today and kind of what people are seeing. We even saw like mortgage rates actually went down this week, believe it or not. Yeah. So there's going to be some back and forth. It's not going to be a straight up line, not a straight down line, but you're right in the thick of having to deal with rates with, your lending company and everything that you're involved in. And obviously rates have an impact on the value of real estate. So maybe just speak to that for a little bit there.
Sure. If you're in a rate sensitive market right now, you're going to have some challenges. So I'll go back to when I first started in real estate full time back in 2007. I was wholesaling. By 2008, we started buying single family homes, and we would flip a couple and we'd keep a couple. We'd flip a couple and keep a couple as rentals, because our goal was always to build a portfolio of assets that paid us over time, right? But we also had to eat. So those flips and wholesales put food on the table, gave us expense money, marketing, etc. But the ones we were able to keep, those were for the long haul. And those were for what I call wealth building. And back then, because we had no track record, hard money lenders wouldn't lend to us. We had no credit. We had just gone through a horrible situation financially with the implosion of the financial markets in 2007. We had no credit, we had no money, none of those things. So we were buying houses as rentals and flips and paying 12 to 15% interest plus points, usually 2 to 3 points on top of that. And today, those numbers sound crazy because of what we've been through over the last 4 or 5 years with interest rates. But I tell people, don't worry what the rate is. Buy the property deep enough that the rate doesn't matter. Because ultimately down the line, now whether that's 1 year, 2 years, or 5 years from now, rates will be different. They will be less, they will be more. I just never have worried about what the rate is, because what I can control is my buy price. I control the strike price. I don't control interest rates. So when I'm buying, I just look at what capital is available to me. What is that cost of capital? Okay, based on that cost of capital, what do I have to buy at in order for this to still make sense? And if I can buy it at that, then that's what I'm going to do. If I can't, then obviously I'll move on to another property. And I think right now that thought process needs to become more prevalent as people are trying to figure out, how do I navigate this high interest rate environment, which, by the way, I've been saying publicly too, this is not a high interest rate environment yet. You haven't seen one yet. If you are under 55 years old, you have never seen a high interest rate environment. I'm hopeful that you won't, but I'm not convinced you won't in this particular cycle. So where do I think rates are going? I think they're going higher. Are we going to have a bump back and forth like we did with the 30-year mortgage ticking down below 7%? Sure. That was just basically a function of the stock market that took a jump forward, and 10-year treasuries fell a little. So therefore, the 30-year is going to obviously fall, typically in concert with the 10-year treasury. But do I think that that's going to stay? No. If I were to put a bet, I'm going to bet that interest rates are going to continue going up over time, probably over the next 6 months. And then I think they're going to sit there for a while, and I think a while might be another 12 before we see any possibility of them coming back down. No, that's obviously just a simple prediction, as I don't have a crystal ball, but that prediction is based on my study of history and previous cycles and previous inflationary environments like the one we're in today. We'll see.
If that does happen, so you're saying they're going to continue to, you think they're going to continue to go up for 6 months, sit still for a while, and then we might see what happens after that. If that does happen, even hard money rates are going to start creeping up. I mean, we've already seen hard money for like the big, they say private money, but they're basically institution money, right? We've already seen those rates creep really up to basically almost the same rates as mine and your rates are for our funds. And I can remember the first hard money loan I ever did, I paid 5 points and 18% interest. So like, I think that's something that we need to, kind of pay attention to. If we're lending, I think our rates might need to be kind of creeping up. Our points need to kind of stay higher, because they're not really going to have, opportunity other ways. But I love what you said, buy the property so deep that the rate doesn't matter. I think this is the other time, though. This is a time of the cycle where people that actually have cash can really shine through, because that's when the rate doesn't matter at all, right?
That's right.
Because if the deal works and I'm happy with my return as a cash investor, and I know a lot of people that have a lot of cash sitting on the sidelines, and I'm actually kind of quite excited for them. I have some cash. I wish I had more of my own, but like it to me, like I'm a little bit excited about what I can do in the next 6 to 12 months with that, capital that we have to be able to, buy and maybe come out, 10 times your money down the road. So appreciate
the other thing I wanted to comment on when we're talking about rates and lending, Tom, I wrote an article recently about the DSCR product and my thoughts on the future of that product. And I really think I wrote that probably a month ago, and a lot of things have changed over the last 30, but I really believe still what I wrote in that article, which is I believe that most DSCR lenders are going to cease that product. I don't believe, and I didn't when it first came out, believe that the way that is developed and the way that those products are funded is going to be a full cycle product, meaning it cannot survive an entire market cycle. Hard money lending, that's a full cycle product. The fix and flip loan, that it doesn't matter, great times, low times, doesn't matter. We will still, as lenders, be able to put that product out on the street. Now, why? Because we have various risk mitigation levers that we can pull. We can pull the lever on LTV and say, hey, instead of 70%, I'm going to ratchet you down to 65 for a while. We can pull the lever on cash needed from the borrower, right? Even if it isn't even if it isn't an LTV lever, I might say, you know what? Instead of you having X number of dollars in the deal, I'm going to require Y. We can do a lot of things to mitigate the risk on that particular product. The main reason that hard money lenders, particularly the regional guys, the smaller guys, not the national guys, can do this is because of where our capital comes from. It comes from relationships. My capital comes from investors in my funds. And those investors, as long as I'm giving them a good return, are not going to yank their money from me and take it somewhere unknown in an uncertain time. In fact, I would argue my money becomes stickier, which is what I want. I want sticky money. I want money that stays with me over time. I would argue that in an uncertain time, my money is going to become stickier because people are in an uncertain mindset and they don't want to leave the devil they know for the devil they don't know. So with that, us regional guys that have our own capital lines and are not tied to banks and are not tied to Wall Street, I think we're going to be able to be full cycle with that product regardless. Now, even the local bank lines can be sticky, because if you've got a relationship with this bank and you've have a great track record with them, again, they might pull some of their risk mitigations levers on you, which then you're going to have to in turn pull on your borrower. But I still think that model works. The Wall Street lines, I don't think works full cycle. And we're going to find out. But the DSCR money, 100% comes from those Wall Street lines. When that dries up, that product goes away, except for, and I don't know of another one, but our DSCR product, we started 2 years before DSCR was even in the lexicon of real estate. We didn't know what to call our product when we brought it out because there was no name for it yet. So we called it our long-term loan because I'm a real creative guy, and that's what I came up with, right? I'm not creative at all. 2 years later, the market comes out.
Tom Berry's a creative guy.
No, creative I'm not. So to this day, we don't call ours the DSCR product, even though it does fit that category. We call them our long-term loan program. But 2 years after we started that, the DSCR product started coming out. And we had two of the very big national companies call us because, we're at trade shows, we're showing our product at trade shows, and people are like, how the hell are you doing that? You can't do that. Well, 2 years later, they're calling us going, okay, we want to get one of those products. We want to start that. How did you do it? Will you help us? And we did. With both of them, I had long phone calls with them. I told them exactly how to do it and create something that would be full cycle. Neither one of them did it. Nobody else in the industry did it. So I don't believe that product is a full cycle product except for ours.
Yeah, but it's interesting. You say DSCR, a lot of people don't even know what that means. So debt service coverage ratio. And that's really what, like, you built your whole product on from the very beginning. And like if it's a viable product, you said at the beginning, I'll do anything that makes sense. That's why it makes sense, because they can cover the debt, right? I mean, that's the whole purpose of the DSCR. I love what Tom said. I didn't pull this out already, but Tom did not start out this world with a silver spoon. He, you hear him talking about his ranch, but he didn't grow up on that ranch. And, in 2006, 2007, Tom was in probably a lot lower shape than most people that are on this call. And it's really cool to see somebody that has literally pulled himself up by the bootstraps, gone and created relationships, made it happen, worked hard every day. And now he says he doesn't work, but he still works every day because he's having so much fun doing what he's doing. I loved it. I love to see him in that. With your lending product, I'd love for you just to give a little bit of insight, because there's probably people on the call that are probably going to need a loan in the next 2 years, and that you might be the solution for them. So I'd love for you just to at least, and you said you'll loan on anything that makes sense, and we heard that already, but just give us a little bit about what you're looking for to loan on, and then how people can get a hold of you for that. And then I also later after that, I'm going to ask you on the investment side as well.
Sure. So our lending company is called Investor Loan Source. We're based out of Houston, and we lend across about 26 business-friendly states. We will lend on single-family flips. We'll lend on commercial redevelopment projects. We've done development projects. We've done subdivisions where somebody bought 300 acres and turned it into a subdivision. We like the commercial stuff because we're commercial investors ourselves. We're comfortable with those types of projects. As far as loan size goes, I really like that $3 to $5 million loan size. That's kind of my sweet spot, but we have done them as high as 12. And of course, as low as 30 grand, not on commercial, obviously. But we'll do the single family fix and flip. We also do the single family long-term loan that the market calls the DSCR loan. And we believe that we will not have to change that program in any way, shape, or form, full cycle. The reason, where we get the capital for it. So we looked really stupid over the last couple of years because we didn't jump on the bandwagon and get that cheap Wall Street money. So our interest rates on our long-term loan were probably 2 to 3% higher than what other national companies were offering. Now we're at parity because they've been raising their rates and we haven't had to raise our rates because our money hasn't changed. We are not a rate-sensitive company because we don't get loans. We don't use lines. So that's why our rates have stayed the same. Now they've pretty much caught up to us. So we look really attractive today, where we didn't so much a year ago and 2 years ago. And we look even more attractive when you look at our lending box. Again, we don't have nearly the constraints that these other guys have. And I was able to, at a trade show recently out in California, we had a booth set up right next to one of these massive, mega lenders across the country, right? And the CEO was there for a little while at that booth, like I was at ours. So, we had a little dry time where we didn't have anybody at the table. So he and I got to talking, and it was amazing. Because I look up to these big guys and, they're doing 300 million in loan volume a month, just crazy numbers. And we'll do 300 million this year. So there's quite a discrepancy. So I asked him straight up. I said, hey, what we're teasing and kidding around a little bit, and I said, what advice would you have for a lowly little regional lender like me? And this is after he explained their model and I explained my model, and we gotten to know each other a little bit. And he says, honestly, don't change. That's my advice. Don't change. He says, I'm envious of you, not the other way. He says, because here's the difference. Your lending company and your employees are safe. You're safe. You're not going to be affected at all by this coming market. He says, me, I'll have to go back and I'll have to lay off 60% of my staff. I'll have to downsize office space, and I will just, we'll survive because we have a fund. It's not big enough to survive at our current rate. But he said, I'll go back and I'll downsize everything, and I'll kind of huddle up to get through the other side. And then I can scale back up again if I decide to. And it was just really telling to listen to this guy that I look up to, still do, talk about his model and the fact that he knew what he was doing was not a full cycle model. He knows that he's going to have to probably cut it by 60% or so just to survive the next cycle. So I just thought it was astounding.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. And I like that. I was challenged at a mastermind about 8-9 years ago, and they kept telling me, Tom, why are you selling all these houses to investors? Why are you servicing investors? You could probably make $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 more on these houses if you sell them retail. And I said, the problem is those retail buyers are gone when there's a bad cycle. Guess what? There's more turnkey buyers knocking down my door right now than we've ever had, because they're buying deep enough where the rate doesn't matter, or they're cash buyers. And, I love that. Bill, I wrote that down. Build a full cycle model, something we all should be thinking in our businesses. What parts of the cycle are going to help different parts of your business, and kind of understanding that's great. Great advice there. So investorloansource.com, is that the way for anybody to be able to apply for a loan there?
It's actually ILS.cash.
ILS.cash.
Yep,
So,
www.ils.cash. Real
all right.
short.
Amelia, can you put, there you go. So Jennifer just put that in the group
Yep.
there in the chat. And then on the flip side, you've talked about this
On the chat, I think it's incorrect. It looks like LIS, unless, I don't have my readers on, maybe I'm wrong, but it should be ILS.cash.
Yeah, it's ILS.
Okay, cool. And then if anybody wants to follow me and my real estate and business exploits, Tom Berry REI is our website, tomberryrei.com. And you can follow us on social media. I put up a lot of articles that we write for what's going on in the marketplace, and videos of, our meat processing plant and the rehab that we're doing on that, or retail that we just purchased, or whatever we're doing. We try to put all of that at the Tom Berry REI Facebook page.
Thanks for that. And then also, if somebody's interested in investing, so there's probably some people that are listening that are like, I'd like to, maybe put some money in one of these funds that Tom Berry's talking about. Even this other guy that's, doing 300 million a month is saying, hey, your investors are safe. I wish my fund was built more like that. It's something I would recommend, and I believe in Tom Berry. I'd put my money there as well. So, how do people get in touch with you if they're? Are you only doing accredited, or are you a fund now that you can take anybody?
Yeah, we actually just sent the paperwork in. Our legal team got it sent to the SEC just this week, so we're real happy about that. And we will have a Reg A fund once the SEC gets it through that accreditation process. So for now, we only can accept accredited investors by the SEC definition. We have two funds, the growth fund and the income fund. One is where we put the notes that we have written that have a construction component to them. That would be commercial development and redevelopment projects and fix and flip notes. Those will go in the growth fund. The income fund is where we put the DSCR loans. So again, that's how we can continue to do both of those. The returns on the growth fund are, anywhere in the 10 to 12% range. And then the income fund is supposed to only be 7 to 9, but we've actually been exceeding 9 because rates have been ratcheting up, and we've been able to ratchet them up a little bit along with the rest of the market. So we're actually exceeding target on that one. In order to learn more about it, you would go to don'tbuystock.com. That is our catchy little URL that we use for our radio commercials, so that people that are driving can remember that when they get to their destination. So www.don'tbuystock.com will get you to the ILS Capital website.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Tom, for sharing and caring today and letting everybody know about what you do and giving us a little bit of insight and how you got where you are, and also like just where we're at in the market and what people should be looking for and what in the world is going on with real estate. Appreciate you for that as well. I do want to remind everybody that our next call is on a Monday. I think that's up here on the screen. Everybody can see that. So Adrian Smoot, which was on here at the beginning, I'm not sure if he stuck around the whole time, but December 12th at 10 a.m. It's a Monday, everybody. So if you have friends that want to get on that, just let us know. We do send out a calendar invite to every single person that has ever wanted to be on these. I think that calendar invite right now goes up to about 350 people a month that this goes out to. This call that was recorded just now will also go out and email to everybody. And it'll also be on our website and on our YouTube page and all that kind of stuff as well. So that's all we've got today, guys. But thank you again, Tom, for investing in our community. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your hard work and your example. Love the talk about having integrity and doing what you're supposed to do there. And also love the fact that you're willing to kind of do something that maybe you haven't done before. Tom, he has a meat packaging plant. I mean, who would have thought a real estate investor would have a meat packaging plant? But the way I see it is he just saw an opportunity and said, hey, man, I want to be safe if for some reason these supply chains go crazy, like I want to have meat myself in my freezer. And I think lots of other people are going to want to have meat. So he's also just a fun guy too. Lots of different stories we can tell you about guns and his whole gun. All I got to say is if there's ever a civil war, I'm going to Tom Barry's house. We'll be at the ranch there. So, but thank you again, Tom, for being on. I hope everybody got to learn some good stuff. Does anybody have a quick question they want to ask? I think we kind of already had the chat's been open the whole time. We've kind of tried to keep this, but if anybody has a quick question, we can answer it real quick, or we can just say goodbye and we'll see everybody in December. I don't see anybody typing there. So again, thanks, Tom. Appreciate you being on.
Question on the chat. I know the standard formula that a lot of people follow is the 70% rule. So with what's going on and the potential for the market to go down even further, and I know you alluded to this saying the deeper the discount, the better. So should we kind of change that formula to a 65 cents on the dollar kind of formula?
Did you hear that, Tom? You want to take that or?
Yeah, I can't tell you what numbers to buy at. I don't want to get into that, but I know they are going down. I believe prices on single family are going to keep going further down. We are not at the bottom yet. So for me, whether it's 65, whether it's 60, you definitely want to buy deeper. I think it also depends on what you're going to do with the house. That's why it's just not an easy answer for me to throw a number at you, because it's not a one size fits all question, right? If you're going to keep that house long term, maybe you can still do a longer, look, when I have rental property and the market cycles and dips, if I have no intention of selling it, what the heck do I care what the value is? right? If I'm not going to sell it or refinance it during that downturn or during that trough, it really doesn't affect me any. Now, maybe psychologically it does, but factually it does not affect me. So I don't think that's a one size fits all question, but I will say buy deeper than you typically would. And I think it gives you more options. And right now, I think that's the key, right? Having options. We didn't really touch on this, but I think, you know, if I were in the single family investing side of things right now, I would be in the lower end of the price market because it gives me more options. You know, maybe I can owner finance. Maybe I can offer, you know, a rent to own option. I know state laws are different everywhere. So please check with your attorney before you do any of those types of creative things. But I think in the lower price points, we just have more options available to us. And going forward, I think options are going to be very valuable.
Yeah, it really needs to make sense. So if you're talking about a wholesaler, I think wholesalers should be looking at selling those properties to be able to give the investors like 60 to 65. That's where wholesalers need to be buying deep enough where they can still sell and the investor can buy and still be able to rehab the house and only be in 60 to 65%. You're in a much safer, you know, and the problem is you got to be honest with yourself. A lot of times the wholesalers, either they're not honest with themselves or they don't really see the real data. 8 months ago, no longer comps. And actually your actives are probably more important in today's market than your solds are, believe it or not, which is not normally typically the case when it comes to, you know, lenders or to wholesalers. You know, they always normally want, you know, solds is the comp, but I'm telling you, actives are very important today. If there's a lot of actives that are, you know, way below that price that you're trying to sell at, you're going to have a really tough time selling that property. So wholesalers, you know, have to look at it a really short time period, like Tom said. But if you're buying to hold, it's really a DSCR decision. Does it make sense? Am I going to be able to cash flow in today's dollars with, you know, with what I'm going to be able to purchase? And that's why I said cash is you know, this is a great time to have cash because the rate doesn't even matter. So
Quick question.
I appreciate.
Thank you.
I got one for Tom. Hey, Tom, you know, the DSCR loans, the industry guidelines are tightening. Leverage has been reduced mostly across the board by 5%. You know, if you could have done a 75% cash out, they're probably doing 70% cash outs now. You know, they were doing 80% on purchases. Some are cut back to 75% on purchases. Have you guys cut back your leverage, or is your leverage still the same as you go forward?
Yeah, great question, Rick. No, we have not had to change our leverage at all because we never went to those goofy numbers in the first place. Doing 80% is goofy. It's just goofy. We never did that. So because we never went there, we never had to cut back. We are just still at 70%. Now, going forward, may we look at those and say, hey, we need to cut back to 65? It's possible. I can't predict the future. We keep an eye on it at all times, but I am confident at 70%, and that's where we are with all of our long-term products at this point.
So that kind of was a lead into Andy's question, where if you're looking at, you know, what multiple to buy, less repairs, you really have to solve the X going backwards. Because if a guy's going to keep a property, how much money is he willing to keep in it? He may not be able to get 80% or 75% financing. He may be like only able to get 70% or 65%. If he doesn't have the liquidity, he's going to have to unload that house. If you can't actually refinance it. So you have to, when you're evaluating your loans, or as if you're buying it, you really need to know what that exit financing looks like, because that landscape is tightening up and the FICO scores are tightening up. DSCRs, anyone, you know, 1.1 DSCR ratio until lately. Now, if you're less than 720 FICO, you got to have a 1.2 DSCR. But with rates are going up, taxes going up, man, it is hard to cash flow today on a 1.2 DSCR. That will also lower the amount you can borrow. So there's a lot of borrowers. I'm getting a lot of refi requests and they're having to leave a lot of money in the deal, and they're just shell shocked at the cash.
Well, Rick, the reason they're having to leave money in the deal is because they didn't buy the deal deep enough in the first place.
Yep.
They paid
Yep.
too damn much for the property. And that is a mistake that so many people over the last 4 or 5 years have been making because they could get away with it with this crazy lending environment that we've been in. Understand, we are leaving the crazy environment. We're not entering it. What we're entering is back into the normal lending environment. What we are leaving was the crazy crap. So when you understand that, you understand all the stuff that people got used to for the last 4 years. It was pie in the sky stuff that should have never been happening in the first place, but it was available. People took advantage of it, and God bless them for that. But don't think that that's going to be here going forward. To your point, I believe the DSCR product is dead, and it is going to die a slow, miserable death. It's not going to die a quick death. And that slow, miserable death is that rates will keep going up. Credit and underwriting requirements will keep tightening down to the point that it is not market clearing anymore. In other words, people won't even bother using it because it doesn't help anymore.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, as credit and lending tighten, you know, property values go down. And it's just the access to capital to be able to get that, you know, particular product. And I think there, and that's where the value really comes from. And I think it's hard sometimes to quantify where does the value come in a property, because like 1 year it might be $500,000 and you have the same payment as maybe next year where we're at now. You could only buy the same house for $300,000 and, you know, be able to, it's really going to cost you the same amount of money in the long run. You know, today to buy a $320,000 house as it cost, you know, to buy a $500,000 house, you know, a year and a half ago. So, I mean, and honestly, like, I'm not even sure it matters that much of a difference. Like, I think people are going, I get asked this question, Tom, sometimes, did I buy too high? And I'm like, well, if you've got a 3% rate, it doesn't really matter. Like, don't, like, you're asking the wrong question. Yep. You know, you bought it, it worked for you then, it will work for you in the future. Now, can you resell right now? Maybe not. That's a different question.
Correct.
But just take it. You know, it's the market. You need to understand the market and play in the constraints of the market. I think eventually we will come back. Will we ever see 2% rates again? I don't know. I think we actually will, because I think they always overcorrect one way or the other, right? So I feel like we're going to overcorrect up and then we'll overcorrect back down. We don't learn our lesson. You know, human nature seems to repeat itself over and over and over again. But you know, in 5 years from now, we could see stupid low rates again, and we could see crazy town again, but we don't really know. But anybody else have any other questions or any final thoughts, Tom?
I'm good.
Well, thank you guys for the call. We're at 11:19 already today right now, but it's been a good call. Appreciate Tom for his time investing in our community. We'll see you guys next month. Have a good day, guys. God bless.